So yesterday, we spent most of the time in the Develop module learning how to fix and enhance your photos using most of the tools and techniques in the Develop module. I want to just do a little bit of recap of that by working fairly quickly through one photo. I'm not going to re-explain everything I explained yesterday, but we're going to work this photo in color, and then ultimately what we're going to do is also create a black and white version. So that's kind of the plan for right now. So I'm going to work this photo here. For you guys here in the studio, it's number 6. And I'm going to start out by cropping this photo. So I'm going to click on the crop tool, and I'm just going to drag it in. You know what? It's almost becoming a square. I might as well make it exactly square. So here at the top of the crop tool, I'm going to click on the drop down and choose 1:1 for the proportions. And then I can click and drag to get a different part of the photo. Put the crop tool away. And that's a little tight, but that'll do. Okay. I don't need to do any spot removal with this work, certainly no red eye work on this photo. So I'm going to go ahead and come down to the Basics panel. Now I'm going to work through this using the Lightroom 3 technology. Right now I have this exclamation point, which tells me, hey, you upgraded from Lightroom 3, this photo is still using that technology. So I'll quickly show how I would work the Basics panel in Lightroom 3 first. But you Lightroom 4 users, don't get confused. I'll again go through the workflow with that as well. So for this photo, I'm going to set exposure for how bright I want the brightest tones. That's what I would do in Lightroom 3. So I'm looking kind of out at the clouds here and making sure I don't blow out any highlights in the histogram, which I explained in depth yesterday. And then I'm going to go to the black slider to set the black point, how dark the darkest tones should be. Right now I've got a lot of blocked up shadows. So I'm going to slide blacks back to 0 to get that detail back. Now recovery and fill light are for issues, so I don't have any blown out highlights. It would be a good idea to add some light into the shadows, though, to kind of brighten up that building. Now I'm going to scroll down a little bit. Got to get out of this max zoom here. And the brightness, that looks fine. Contrast, make it a little bit punchier. Maybe the brightness is a little too bright. It's really a balancing act. And then I'll come down and add a little bit of clarity or three-dimensionality. Lightroom 3 tends to give you heavy shadows on edges, so be careful with that. And then I'll add some vibrance, but vibrance tends to affect the trees or too much, so I'll double click on that to reset, try saturation. So I've concluded I need to work on the colors individually. I can't get what I want between the sky and the grass. So next I would go to working on individual colors, but before I do that, let me just go through that exact same thing using the Lightroom 4 version. So I'm going to hit the Update button here, update it to Lightroom 4 technology, the new process version. And it just shows me the conversion here from Lightroom 3 to Lightroom 4. I'm going to click back on this single frame so that I'm not looking at before and after mode. And I'm going to start. So what it did was it translated my Lightroom 3 work into the Lightroom 4 sliders. I'm going to reset all of these, though, to say, you know what, I want to start from scratch again with this photo using Lightroom 4. So to reset a slider, remember, just double-click on the word. OK, so now we're thinking Lightroom 4 workflow and technology, which is different. So I'm going to take the exposure slider up, not for the white point, but for the midtones, the average values. So now I'm looking probably in these trees here or a little bit into the building here. I'm not looking at the brightest tones in the sky. Consider adding a little bit more contrast. But I need some more light in this building. I need some more light in the shadows. So I'll come down to shadows here and just add some light in. So shadows in Lightroom 4 is a very powerful slider. I mean, it's very effectively isolates the shadows. The highlights are a bit bright in the sky, so I'm going to bring the highlights down a little bit. OK. Next, I'll scroll down. I'll also add some clarity. Lightroom 4 clarity, I don't have to worry so much about halos along edges, dark shadows along edges. And I'm going to work on the colors individually now rather than use vibrance and saturation. So I'll scroll down to the HSL panel. HSL allows me to work on individual colors, remember? So I'm going to click on luminance for brightness and darkness. And I want to darken the blues in the sky. Or really, I want to darken the blues, and they happen to be in the sky. So I'm going to grab my handy targeted adjustment tool that we learned about yesterday, and I'm going to click and drag down in the sky to darken the blues. I just love how that works. And then I'm going to go to the saturation tab here. Actually, while I'm here, I'm also going to click and drag down to darken the yellows and the greens in the photo. So Lightroom is just sliding whatever slider it needs to, or whatever slider pertains to the colors under which I'm clicking and dragging, so yellow and green in this case. Next, I'll go to saturation, and I'll saturate the sky just a little bit more. And we'll call this done. I can spend lots of time just fine-tuning everything, being real precise, but I think that kind of recaps that so far. Now, in this photo, this left-hand side here is just too bright. My eye goes to it, and there's no way to isolate it using the panels that we've learned. I haven't used the tone curve this morning. That allows me, remember from yesterday, to control ranges of tones, highlights, lights, darks, shadows. But these are basically light tones, but there are other light tones in the photo, so I can't affect that area without affecting other areas as well. So I'm down to relying on the adjustment brush. So the adjustment brush allows me to make local changes, and we spent a lot of time yesterday learning all of the power of the adjustment brush. So I'll click on the adjustment brush, and I need to say what I want to do, but Lightroom is remembering what I did last time, so I'll double click on the word effect, which I think I actually did say in my dreams last night as I was dreaming of teaching. So hopefully not out loud. And okay, so I double clicked on the word effect, and I want to paint with negative exposure. And I don't know how much, because again, as I said yesterday, you can't see until you start painting. But I'm just going to use the scroll wheel on my mouse to get a smaller brush, and I'll just paint this area in. And again, I could be more precise. I'll just go ahead and do this area here as well. And now it's way too dark, of course, but I can take the exposure slider up now to get exactly what I want. Now, I'm going to do one more new adjustment. I'm going to click on New in the adjustment brush and double-click on the word Effect, and go with positive exposure. And I just want to brighten up this front part of the building a bit. Okay. And I'll do one more new one. Now that I've started, it's like I can't stop. I know we need to move on to other things, but like this part of the building is still too dark. So I'm being a little sloppy here, but I would do as many new adjustments as I need to really get the focus onto the front of this building. Maybe even another new one just to brighten up this sign, just to get people to focus on that. So I'm going to call this done at this point, though.